Breaking news tonight at 11 as a massive earthquake in Russia leads to the entire west coast of the United States being put on tsunami watch. This is a first look at some of the damage in Russia. The 8.8 earthquake is now considered the 8th largest on record. Thank you for joining us. I'm Christine Pitawanit.
And I'm Stephanie Domarat. Now, this is where the earthquake struck tonight on the Kamchatka Peninsula of Russia around 4:30 our time. That led to tsunami warnings for Hawaii and a tsunami advisory for the entire west coast of the U.S., the area you see in orange on this map.
And let's take a live look now from our Skycam in Lincoln City. You can see some waves, some white caps there, but the waves are expected to hit here in just about 45 minutes. At least that's what we're anticipating. And while we're not expecting any large waves, officials still want people far from the beach.
And Hawaii has already seen the first of the expected tsunami waves. This is a live look from Waikiki Beach in Honolulu. We will have more on what people are seeing there just ahead.
But first, we have live team coverage from the Oregon coast. Alma McCarty is in Lincoln City for us, and Catherine Cook is in Cannon Beach.
Let's start with Chief Meteorologist Matt Safina with more on the timing of this tsunami threat along our coastal area and what we can expect. Matt?
Hey, Stephanie, thanks very much. As you mentioned, this all emanates from that large earthquake that hit off the Kamchatka Peninsula earlier today, 4:24 our time, now upgraded to an 8.8. As you mentioned, one of the top 10 biggest earthquakes ever measured on record. For our coast, we're under a tsunami advisory, and it says until Friday. Basically, that means until further notice, because there's a lot of energy over the ocean that needs to dissipate before we get the all clear on this. The thing about these waves is you may have heard forecasts, oh, it's only going to be a foot or 2 feet. And while that may be true, these are not like your normal crashing, breaking waves on the Oregon coast or any coast. These are not even like the big 20, 30-foot waves we get with the king tides or something like this. The nature of these waves is completely different. It's more like a surge that comes in and goes out in a series, comes in and goes out. Can be 10 to 20 minutes between those waves. So it really is something of a different nature compared to the big waves we get with wintertime storms. Now, the coast of Northern California, just south of the Oregon border, is under a tsunami warning. That means you have to move to higher ground in those areas because they are expecting larger waves there. That has to do with the bathymetry, the shape of the seafloor there, as opposed to the shape of the seafloor on the Oregon coast. In fact, the tsunami advisories go all the way down to the Mexican border, all of California. So our arrival times look like this. Hasn't really changed. Long Beach, 11:45. Seaside and Newport, about 11:55. Then the southern Oregon coast, around 11:50, a little bit earlier. So basically between 11:45 and 11:55 is when we expect to see the first initial waves hit the Oregon coast. But again, this isn't just one wave. It'll be a series of waves, and it's more like a surge. So while you may think, oh, it's only a foot or two, keep in mind, 3 feet of water can completely knock you off your feet, and they tend to move fast, which is why the water as it surges inland, which is why it can do so much damage. So that's why this is a concern, even though the forecast of just a foot or two doesn't sound like that big of a deal, right? So just to break this down for you, tsunami watch means stay tuned, be prepared to act, look for more info. We had that earlier. That got upgraded to an advisory for the Oregon coast. That means stay out of the ocean, stay off the beach, but no evacuations are necessary because we're not expecting a big wall of water. But if we get a tsunami warning like in Northern California, that means you have to evacuate to higher ground because the waves will be powerful and they will be big. But for the Oregon and Washington coast, it is a tsunami advisory, again, until further notice. You know, the big one back in 2011 in Hawaii, they didn't get the all clear until the following morning. So it can take a while for all of this energy to dissipate. Now, speaking of Hawaii, they're under tsunami warning and the first set of waves already reaching that coast. You know what else they got? 2 tropical systems, one a Hurricane Iona, the other Tropical Storm Kelly, south of the islands there. Those will be moving away from the islands, but still, they're getting it from all directions now down in our 50th state. Now, we measure the tsunami wave with some deep ocean buoys, and they tell us what's happening without any reflection coming in from nearshore waters like our normal tide gauges. Then that gets fed into the computer models, and that's how tsunamis get forecast. But it's a very complicated process, which is why there's some uncertainty even as we get closer in time to the actual event. But again, right now we're less than an hour away from the first initial tsunami waves reaching the Oregon coast. Ladies?
Watching that closely for us, Matt. Thank you so much. Well, let's get to Catherine Cook now. She's joining us live in Cannon Beach this evening. And Catherine, what have you seen out there and how are people feeling right now?
Good evening, guys. They're relaxed, but vigilant. No one we spoke with seemed overly concerned, though the tsunami advisory definitely took them by surprise. Cannon Beach Tuesday night offered something unexpected for tourists, a tsunami advisory.
We're optimistic that hopefully it doesn't hit here very hard, so yeah.
And we're prepared if it does.
Scott and Claudette Schaefer are here from Minnesota. They're paying attention to these signs pointing to evacuation routes. But the beach itself showed no signs for concern.
We're hoping that for the best. We want to continue to enjoy our vacation here. We have a lot of things that we're looking forward to. We do have a plan if needed.
Phil Wheaton is visiting from Vancouver, BC.
I got a text from somebody in Ontario, Canada, and he was saying, "Are you aware?" And I'm saying, "Yeah, we're right in the middle of it."
For emergency responders, the tsunami advisory didn't trigger any serious alarm. They've been here before.
If a tsunami does hit, just stay away from the water.
Deputy Chief Jason Smith says they're more concerned when king tides roll onto the Oregon coast during winter months.
A king tide can be in upwards of 10-foot swell, so we're looking at 4 feet right now. So way below what a king tide would give.
Smith says either way, they're prepared to respond if conditions change. Visiting families weighed their options, trying to separate fear of the unknown from facts.
I'm much more of a scientist. I want to actually look at data and see how things are actually coming in and affecting Alaska, for example, and then affecting, Canada. But, we have little ones. And so, of course, we want to be as mindful as possible.
And as the sun set over Cannon Beach, those here understood the irony. Their getaway from the world is suddenly the place that the whole world is watching. And what a beautiful sunset that was this evening. Back live in Cannon Beach, normally we would see little campfires dotting the coast, but none tonight. It seems people are heeding that tsunami advisory and staying away. And at last look, it appeared those waves are pretty normal, and yet that advisory is still in effect. Back to you.
Yeah, good to hear that people are heeding the warning, though, just in case. Catherine Cook in Cannon Beach for us. Thank you, Catherine. Moving south now to Lincoln City, where our Alma McCarty is posted tonight. Alma, give us a sense of what you're seeing where you are.
Yeah, Christine, we are out here on Northwest 26th Street in Lincoln City. For people who frequent, this is one of the public beach access spots. Of course, you see the signs here behind me giving various warnings. Of course, one being that tsunami evacuation map. So we know based on the map and kind of based on where we are standing, because there is a staircase down to the beach, that we are currently out of harm's way for a distant tsunami advisory. Now, of course, it's dark out here, so you can't see much, but this is some of the video we shot just a couple of hours ago. Here is a look at Lincoln City and of the beach. Now, when we showed up, many here they were, like Catherine was saying, heeding the warnings. They were off of the beach. That advisory, of course, was upgraded from a watch later on in the evening. And besides a few people walking around, we have not seen many people at the beach this evening. Now, parts of town, of course, go in and out of the tsunami evacuation zones based on elevation. So, of course, where you are located, where your home is located, that's going to determine where you need to be at this time. We did meet several folks right off of a public access, one that was further up the road. They'd left the beach with, of course, plenty of time, but they are curious about what comes next.
Obviously, I don't want to get hit by a tsunami, but it's like, that'd be cool if I saw a tsunami.
Yeah, once in a lifetime opportunity.
If I was like near one.
Yeah.
If there's an earthquake right now, you get off right away. They shouldn't be on here. There's already an alert right now.
We were a little nervous when we first got it. We didn't know what to do, so we looked online, and we were relieved to see that it was just the lowest level advisory, so not a big deal. And then it got upgraded, and so we were a little bit more nervous about it, and we asked the front desk what they thought we should do, and apparently they're prepared for the situation, so they eased us how high up we are. We should be fine.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of people out here are prepared for the situation. And of course, the Lincoln County and Lincoln City officials have been putting out different warnings and notices this evening. And it sounds as though a lot of people are responding to those and, of course, heeding the warning, as we have said all evening. Now, neither the locals nor the visitors out here do seem too nervous, too fearful of what's to come, more curious again about what is going to be happening on the coast overnight into Wednesday morning. Christine, Stephanie, back to you.
Yeah, it sounds like a very similar response to what we heard in Cannon Beach. Alma McCarty, though, reporting for Lincoln City. Thank you, Alma. And we know we are throwing around a whole lot of official terms tonight. So let's talk about the difference between the types of tsunami alerts from the National Weather Service.
So a warning means move to higher ground or inland immediately. That's the highest level of an alert. An advisory, which is what we are under here on the West Coast, means stay out of the water, away from beaches. And a watch means get prepared and stay tuned for more information and be ready to act if need be.
And so those alerts go out from the National Weather Service. The Oregon Department of Emergency Management leads communication to make sure they reach people right away.
Joining us now is Patience Winningham, the Deputy Director of Oregon's Department of Emergency Management, Patience, thanks so much for staying up late and joining us tonight. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
First, I want to ask you, walk us through what's happening there at OEM right now.
Sure. Well, thankfully, we are able to stand down somewhat at the state level, but we were earlier tracking the event with our partners from across Region 10, FEMA Region 10, to include Alaska, Washington, and Oregon emergency management partners to understand what could be the potential impacts and maintaining a real-world situational awareness to understand our posture across the state of Oregon to support our coastline.
And so you had said that you're standing down a bit right now. What are you looking at? What are you monitoring at this point in the evening?
Sure. So we received a briefing from the National Weather Service and the Tsunami Center about 6:30 this evening, and we quickly pivoted and briefed all of our state partners and our local county emergency managers, as well as some other federal partners, on what the potential impacts could look like. And we've been actively monitoring and receiving briefings on a half-hour basis until we understood what the potential threat was for the state of Oregon. We are looking to our California partners and our partners in Hawaii and ready to support if necessary. But our agency is really responsible for support and coordination and amplifying information to ensure clear understanding of what the situation is and how it's unfolding and what the potential impacts to life, safety, and the environment could be.
So what do you want people to know right now who are either living on or visiting the Oregon coast?
It's always important to understand what the alerts are. You did a fine job in defining them this evening for our transient population that comes to Oregon to recreate on our coastline. Those that live on the coast are very familiar with tsunamis and the protective measures that they need to take, but sharing that information across the jurisdiction is really important to ensure everybody has a clear understanding of how to take protective action. You also understanding the seismic movement and tsunami risk, how high the wave could be, not flocking to the ocean to look for the wave, but moving away from the water to protect yourself, your family, and your friends is extremely important.
And whether it's in this situation that we're focusing on tonight or an emergency situation in the future, how can people living here or visiting here make sure that they get the alerts they need in situations that are emergent, that are emergencies?
You can register by going to oralert.com for alerts for your particular location. Here in the state of Oregon, alert and warning is at the local level, the responsibility of the local jurisdiction. Don't call 911 if it's not a life safety emergency. So know your trusted sources, such as your media partners, social media, your local government, local emergency management programs, to ensure you're getting information quickly so you can take protective measures for yourself.
When it comes to at this hour, are there specific areas in your agency that you are more focused on when it comes to Oregon that maybe is more at risk or really needs more attention right now, either because of the topography or the population?
Well, we look at those inundation maps specifically to tsunami hazard and risk. We review those maps and look for low-lying areas. Currently, the United States Coast Guard was briefing us earlier today, and we need to be focusing on our low-lying bay areas where we have marinas and ensuring that they are moving those resources and assets out of harm's way, mostly in the southern Oregon coast, and the northern California coast could see potential impacts from larger waves.
And so what happens now as we move forward through this evening? I know we're not expecting to get waves really hitting our coastline until a little bit later, maybe about 11:45, 11:55, closer to midnight. What will you and your team be working on between now and then?
Currently, we're receiving those briefings, as I said before, and we pivot and take that information to share with our state partners, both with law enforcement, fire, and our local county emergency managers. We have situation dashboards that we can share that information with pretty quickly to ensure a clear understanding of what the impacts are.
Again, that's Patience Winningham joining us, the Deputy Director of Oregon's Department of Emergency Management. Patience, thank you so much for that important information tonight. We appreciate you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Well, our TV news partners up and down the West Coast are keeping a close eye on all the conditions.
Jim Nelson is in Ocean Shores, Washington, with a look at the concerns there.
This is the type of scene up and down the coast in Washington. We are in Ocean Shores where the beach has just been closed. I spoke with the emergency management director here in Grays Harbor County in Washington, and they said their main concern is a 12 to 24 hour period of strong and abnormal currents, mostly impacting the maritime community. At this point, they're not particularly worried about any inundation or any major impacts inward. But again, because of those abnormal patterns that they'll be seeing in the water, they want people to avoid going right up to the coast, and that's why they're starting to close some of the beaches as they're doing here. There were certainly plenty of people on the beach that have been told to back off, again, because the beach is closed and because of the concerns over the water conditions. Could be a 24-hour event with those strong currents. In Ocean Shores, Washington, Jim Nelson.